Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Hill with April Ryan. Let's get started. We've got a lot to talk about. Russian President Vladimir Putin is admitting the uprising by the Wagner military group brought his country to the brink of civil war. Yevgeny Prigozhin halted his march to Moscow on Saturday after the Kremlin agreed not to pursue charges against him or his followers. Prigozhin is currently in neighboring Belarus. The Wagner group has been disbanded. Putin has invited all ex-Wagner military fighters to join the Russian army. The White House was very careful with its messaging when asked about the uprising. The Biden administration declined to use any labels like an attempted coup in characterizing the conflict. I asked National Security Council spokesman John Kirby about Russia's perceived weakness amid its ongoing war in Ukraine.
We would be concerned about instability in Russia is the war in Ukraine predominantly. Yes, Russia is a nuclear power, and yes, that's of concern, and yes, we continue to monitor that. But I mean, I just think if you look at the scope of recent events, again, over the past year and a half, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about stability in Russia and the impact that could have on the Ukrainian people and on the European continent.
The Russian war against Ukraine has put a focus on prices at the gas pump as the conflict overseas directly affects the rising prices of gasoline. The federal government continues to work on both long-term and short-term fixes, according to Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm.
You know, the gas prices are down $1.50 from what they were last year. But let's just be clear about that. But we also want to make sure that people have access to electric vehicles, April, and in electric vehicles, if we bring down the price of electric vehicles, which is what the $7,500 credit at the dealer site will do to make a $23,000 Chevy Bolt, for example, finance for less than $20,000, you know, that's affordable. And what will you pay for gas then? Zero. You may pay $14 to fill it up the same amount of distance at your home.
For the long term, the Energy Secretary and South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn are teaming up to get buy-in from the residents of the Southeast on clean energy vehicles as well as solar energy. I talked with both of the Democratic powerhouses on clean energy and the jobs it would create.
3 big new battery plants here in South Carolina, rural South Carolina. Collinson County, just a few miles from where we were today, with the electric, what we call it?
ABB, the charging station.
The charging stations. The biggest battery plant is going to be in the rural part of South Carolina, less than an hour drive from that plant. So this, to me, is really as bottom up as you can possibly be, and bringing these kinds of jobs into a part of the country that used to depend upon cotton or tobacco, and all of that's gone to Asia. So let's bring our jobs back from Asia.
Lunch, anyone? Well, I'm speaking of the lunch between former U.S. President Barack Obama, considered by some the forever president, and sitting U.S. President Joe Biden. The lunch happened Tuesday of this week. The pair have been in close contact since Obama left the Oval Office, January 20th, 2017. This week, we have seen several members of the U.S. Secret Service testify before the January 6th grand jury over the tragic events that took place that day. As the process of holding accountable all who are involved in the planning and execution of the January 6th insurrection unfolds, and a dysfunctional Congress appears to be grinding to a halt, some are worried about the greater impact, particularly on our children, as we watch history in the making. Hope Goins has a front row seat to it all. She's the top advisor to ranking Homeland Security member Congressman Benny Thompson, who also chaired the January 6th Select Committee. She's the author of the children's book called The Adventures of Chloe and Chris and the Three Branches of Government.
She wanted to be the president so she can be the boss, so she can tell people what to do and not have any repercussions. Her parents slow her down on that and begin to explain democracy and begin to explain checks and balances by telling her a president doesn't just get to do what she wants to do. The president actually has to be told what to do by Congress. And then the judicial branch has to make sure that the laws signed by the president, that were written by Congress, are actually legal.
This week, we're happy to tell you that beginning July 21st, the postage stamp commemorating the life of the late Congressman John Lewis will go on sale. Lewis was a lifelong civil rights activist who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and believed in nonviolence and equality for all. Rest in power, my friend. And that's it for this edition of The Hill with April Ryan. I'll see you next week at the same time and the same place, where we focus on politics about us and for us. Take care. Until next time, peace.